Everyone is busy going through their busy lives. Sung-woo steps out of a crowded bus. He seems to be pretty exhausted from his travel. He has to go through this rough bus travel daily because he's commuting from his home. His friend Han-ho makes fun of him because Sung-woo completed his harsh military service as a Special Forces Reserve Sergeant, and now he can't even bear 2 hours of commute. Sung-woo gets back at Han-ho by reminding him that he did not even complete his military service because of a girl, Mi-young. After hearing this insult, Han-ho becomes completely silent, and they head towards their class. On their way, Sung-woo feels a bit bad about the silence of his friend and asks him if Han-ho is crying. Han-ho points towards the sky at the top of the library building and tells Sung-woo that he saw a message in the sky saying "downloading monsters," and that message disappeared after the timing reached 100%. Sung-woo thinks Han-ho is sad about his previous girlfriend and he is seeing things in the sky because he spends most of his time playing video games. Sung-woo tells Han-ho to snap back to reality and they both head towards their respective classes. During the lectures, Sung-woo becomes a bit dizzy and it's hard for him to stay awake. Suddenly, a blackout happens and all lights went out. A system message popped up in front of everyone in the class. It was written in the system message to pick a class which can help them in the apocalypse. After that, a 15 seconds timer started and different skill cards with stars appeared in front of the class. Some students panicked and asked others not to pick anything because it could be dangerous. Sung-woo is skeptical about them and thinks not choosing a card within the 15 seconds is going to be even more dangerous. Sung-woo tried to pick a warrior card with 2 stars, but a fat kid Min-soo picked it before him, and a sword appeared in his hand. Sung-woo became a bit panicked and picked a random card with the most stars. The card he picked belonged to the 5 stars Necromancer class and the skill card went inside him. After the timer was up, Sung-woo and the fat kid Min-soo were the only ones who had chosen any cards. The fat kid Min-soo is amazed by his new sword. After a while, a student rushes into class and there's a small monster on his back which looks like a goblin, and he's constantly stabbing the shoulder of the student who is crying for help. He keeps crying for help until the goblin kills him in cold blood. Everyone starts running away from the goblin, leaving Sung-woo at the front because they think it's their turn next. Some students request Min-soo to do something because he's the only guy with the sword, but Min-soo is a coward and he's not quick enough to adapt to this situation. Sung-woo also thinks that depending on Min-soo is useless and he has to get out of this situation on his own. The goblin plunges towards Sung-woo with his small dagger. Sung-woo thinks that he will also be done for if he gets caught up like the previous kid the goblin killed. Sung-woo kicks the goblin with all of his might, which throws the goblin a bit back. Sung-woo realized that the goblin barely felt like it was 30 pounds and he can easily kill it. He picks up a chair and smashes the head of the goblin with all of his force. The goblin is defeated and he receives 10 gold from the system for defeating the goblin. Everyone is shocked after watching this. Sung-woo is quick to adapt to the situation and realizes that the world has fused with the game. While Sung-woo is busy understanding the current situation, a system message pops up which tells Sung-woo that he can command the dead under his authority. He touches the goblin skeleton option in his command list and the dead goblin behind him reanimates as a skeleton. At this point, he understands that his Necromancer class allows him to summon the undead beings. 2 more goblins rush inside the classroom. Sung-woo orders his undead skeleton to kill those 2 goblins. The skeleton plunges at one goblin and stabs him in the shoulder. The stab wound is not deep enough and he gets pushed back by the goblin. Both goblins gang up on him and start chopping off his bones one by one. Sung-woo thinks that he needs to help his skeleton and getting rid of these 2 goblins is easy, but he needs a proper weapon, so he asks Min-soo for his sword, but Min-soo is a coward and rejects him. Sung-woo thinks he's pretty pathetic and asks him to use his sword to peel potatoes. Sung-woo picks up another chair and throws it towards the 2 goblins who were attacking his skeleton. The goblins are knocked back a bit by the chair, and the undead skeleton seizes this chance to end them both with his knife. Sung-woo receives 20 gold for defeating both goblins. After the fight ended, Sung-woo received another system message that he has maxed out the number of minions under his authority. His classmates asked him about what he had done and he has also no idea about the ongoing events. Other students think that the same thing is happening all over the campus because they can hear screaming voices of others. But when Sung-woo opens the curtains on the windows, he witnesses fires all around the city. Some students decide that they need to leave the campus if they want to survive. In the corridor, they encounter more goblins which start chasing them, but they are all subdued by Sung-woo's undead skeletons. While Sung-woo's skeletons are fighting the goblins, he asks the other students to run away while they hold the goblins. Sungwoo also realized that this world is now working like a game, and he can get more stronger if he keeps killing goblins and grinding levels. Meanwhile, one of his undead skeleton gets defeated, and his head comes flying near him. Luckily, the goblins are exhausted, and his two other skeletons manage to kill them, which earns him 20 gold and a level up. He is now on level 2, and he has access to his status window. 5 random skill cards appear in front of him, and he can choose one as a level up gift. He chose a card which increased his maximum number of minions by 1. He can now control up to 4 undead skeletons at once, but he has used up most of his mana because he called up so many skeletons. Sungwoo looks outside the window, and it seems like the situation outside is worse than the campus itself. While he's going downstairs with the skeletons, Han-ho gets freaked out by one of his skeletons and stabs it in the head. Han-ho becomes relieved after seeing Sungwoo alive. Sungwoo tells him that these skeletons are part of his skill. Sungwoo asks which class did Han-ho pick, and Han-ho replies that he picked 1-star rogue class. They are both heading down the stairs with the skeletons, but suddenly a message pops up saying that they have received synergy with a dagger. It turns out if 5 members of a party have a dagger equipped, they will receive a 10% fatal blow chance and 10% additional gold. While they are moving down the stairs with the skeletons, they encounter another pack of goblins, and there is a goblin chief among them. The goblins become affected by a skill called Scent of Death, which weakens their stats by 30%. Scent of Death activates automatically when there are 4 to 5 skeletons present in a party. Skeletons start attacking the goblins, but the goblin chief activates a skill called Wild Berserker, which buffs all the goblins under his command. The goblins become more powerful and start pushing back the skeletons. Sungwoo knows that they are being pushed back because of the skill of the goblin chief, so he ordered one of his skeletons to cut off the arm of the goblin chief, which he is using for the berserker skill. The skeleton manages to chop off the arm of the chief, which weakens the goblins, and the skeletons finish them off with ease. Goblin chief is enraged, but he is easily killed by the skeletons working in synergy. Sungwoo receives one-handed crude spear and the bracelet of the goblin chief, which he was using for the berserker skill. He becomes a bit happy and praises one of his skeletons, who starts making weird creepy noises with his bones. When they reach the entrance of the campus, they see a lot of survivors. Sungwoo orders his skeletons to hide in the copy room because people will freak out after watching them. Situation on the entrance doesn't feel any good. They are locked inside the campus and they can't go out. While Sungwoo tries to head outside using the main door, he is stopped by one of the student council members, Jin-suk, who was previously famous for being a bully and a harasser. He tells them that he is a shield master with 2 stars and he already killed one of the goblins. He further elaborates that everyone with a weapon should work together to defend the other students. Minsu comes running towards Jin-suk and reports that he heard faint sound of goblins near the entrance. Jin-suk orders the students to get inside the cafe so he and the other guys with skills can protect them. Sungwoo tells Han-ho to come near the entrance of the gate. They see a message on the entrance that the entrance door has been sealed by a magical force, and they need to defeat the boss monster within 2 hours and 11 minutes. If they fail to defeat the monster within a given time frame, the monsters inside the building will grow even stronger. Sungwoo now knows what he needs to do next, but he is stopped by Jin-suk, who wants them to hold the monsters in there until backup arrives. Sungwoo tells Jin-suk that this same thing can be happening around the whole country, and waiting for a rescue team is useless, but Jin-suk refutes by saying that the Korean military is more stronger than the monsters. Sungwoo has enough of this bullshit and starts heading towards the stairs, but he is stopped by an approaching group of 5 goblins. Sungwoo orders his skeletons to come out. After watching the skeletons, everyone freaks out because they think skeletons are part of the monsters unit. But Sungwoo tells them that they don't need to be scared because they belong to his class, which is stronger than the idiot Jin-suk. Goblins get scared by the death scent skill of the skeletons and it reduces their stats by 30%. Sungwoo orders his goblins to start the hunt. Skeletons start attacking the goblins and Sungwoo helps them using his spear. 2 goblins try to run, but Sungwoo orders the skeletons to block their way. Sungwoo is fighting himself because he wants to show the others that defeating them is not impossible, so he can persuade them to join him in boss hunting. One goblin is killed by a skeleton while the other one tries to run away, but Sungwoo throws his spear which pierces the back of the goblin. Everyone is overjoyed by watching the fight. Sungwoo received a roulette ticket by the system for killing 20 monsters, and he's the 34th person to complete this achievement, and his rank will be increased to infinite status, and there are only 100 people who are eligible for this ticket. He praises his skeletons for their work, and they again start making that weird voice with their bones. Sungwoo heads inside the cafe and tells everyone that no backup is arriving, and they will be killed by stronger monsters if they cannot find and kill the boss monster within the given time period. One of the students tells Sungwoo that he saw the boss monster on the rooftop and it killed his professor. Now he knows his next destination, but no one comes forward to join his party. Even his friend Han-ho wants to stay behind, but he forces him to come with him because he needs the knife buff for his skeletons. A 23-year-old girl, Jisoo-yeon, comes forward. She has a 3-star class called Tiger Hunter. Sung-woo asks Jin-seok to come up with them, but he's a coward, so he makes an excuse that he needs to stay behind to defend the other students. Jin-seok and his party start heading towards the rooftop. They encounter some goblins on the stairs. Sung-woo heads upstairs with the skeletons to fend off the goblins, while Jisoo-yeon takes care of the 2 goblins coming from behind using her fast sword. Sung-woo and Han-ho are both impressed by her skill. On the upper floors, they encountered an injured Professor Hwang. Professor Hwang tells Sung-woo that most of his students are dead because they tried to head to the rooftop, according to the instructions of Emergency Evacuation Manual, but they encountered the boss monster there and most of the students were killed. Professor Hwang instructs Sung-woo to never go towards the rooftop, and these prove to be his last words. Sung-woo receives a new exclusive quest after the death of his professor. The quest says that he can appease the grudge of the dead by defeating the boss monster within the given time limit, and this choice is going to affect his destiny. Sung-woo gets more furious and heads toward the rooftop to fight the boss with his companions. Rooftop is in a terrible state. The goblins are pillaging everything valuable from the dead bodies of the students. Sung-woo and Jisoo-yeon become furious after watching it. Sung-woo uses his bracelet skill Berserker to increase the stats of his skeletons, and an all-out skirmish starts on the rooftop. Everyone is fighting, which pumps Han-ho a bit, and he throws his knife, which hits the head of a goblin, earning him his first kill. He becomes more encouraged, which makes him feel like a character from JoJo. After encountering scent of death, the surviving goblins became scared and run off to their boss, the Goblin Captain. After hearing the roar of the Goblin Captain, the goblins' morale rises and they start attacking Sung-woo's party, but they are still no match for his skeletons. On the other hand, the Goblin Captain starts smashing skeletons one by one. Sung-woo can make more skeletons from the corpses, but it depletes his mana. Han-ho throws 2 knives at the boss, which are blocked by the shoulder of the boss. This makes the boss more furious, and he starts charging towards Han-ho. The skeletons try to save him, but 2 of them get easily smashed by 1 hit of the boss. One of them survives and manages to land a hit. While the boss is busy taking care of the last skeleton, Jisoo-yeon takes advantage of this opening and slashes the boss, which wounds him a little bit. Sung-woo starts fighting more strategically and uses his skeletons as bait, while he throws his spear towards the boss, which slashes his cheek a bit. The boss becomes more agitated and smashes some of the skeletons of Sung-woo. Now Sung-woo has barely enough mana left for a last skeleton summon. Sung-woo sees a sword stuck in the rubble, and he now knows that he needs to end this quickly or they are gonna die. Sung-woo picks up the sword and orders his 2 skeletons to charge at the boss. The boss smashes both of his skeletons and the 3rd skeleton jumps up towards the boss and he has a sword, but the boss deflects his attack. It turns out Sung-woo was after the synergy of swords, and now Sung-woo, Jisoo-yeon, and his skeleton have a sword which activates sword synergy. This synergy decreases the weight of the swords by 50% and increases attack speed by 10%. Sung-woo charges towards the boss with a chair, and his other party members also start attacking the boss. Han-ho manages to hit the arm of the boss with a knife. Sung-woo orders his last skeleton to attack the boss. This skeleton was the first goblin monster killed by Sung-woo, and it surprises Sung-woo by beheading the boss with a sword in 1 hit. They receive 255 gold for defeating the Goblin Captain. Sung-woo gets leveled up. Now he is a level 3. The skeleton also absorbed the mana of the Goblin Captain, which upgraded his class, and now he has a tattoo on his forehead. He is now a level 2 elite goblin, and he has also a commander attribute. Sung-woo thinks his commander attribute is gonna be useful once he gets more skeletons. Han-ho has leveled up to 2, and Jisoo-yeon leveled up to 3, and all of them received options to choose a random card. Sung-woo chose a card and he got a basic skill to create weapons from bones. This skill costs 10 mana, and he can create swords, clubs, spears, and bows using the bones of the corpses. Because Sung-woo completed an exclusive quest of avenging his professor, he will receive an exclusive reward and his destiny has been altered slightly. His maximum number of minions have increased by 1, and now he can summon up to 5 minions. Han-ho received a hood as a reward, and it increases his chance of hiding from the monsters by 50%. He can use this hood to run away from the monsters, but now he knows how to fight, so he is gonna use it to fight against the monsters. Jisoo-yeon received a fire whetstone. If she sharpens her blade with it, there is a chance that her sword will catch fire during an attack. Sung-woo tells them that they can test their skills later and they need to head back down. On the entrance, Jin-seok is pissed at everyone because they keep saying that Jin-seok should have gone up along with Sung-woo. Jin-seok gets angry and starts spouting bullshit that Sung-woo was an idiot and he must be dead by now. Suddenly, skeletons appear behind Jin-seok and he becomes scared. Sung-woo heads towards the entrance and it opens up after he touches it. He also tells Jin-suk that he is very